Hi, Sandra Wilson here. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist who works with people with misophonia and extreme sound sensitivity. So in today's question, I'm going to try to answer why you feel such rage when you hear people chewing. So why does it happen? Why the extreme emotion attached to people doing something that really is entirely normal? So if you have noticed that certain sounds, in particular the sound of people eating, chewing, swallowing even, just makes you feel extremely angry, extremely uncomfortable, disgusted as well. That's another very common feeling with misophonia. I'm not referring here to general noise nuisance, by the way. This is something that is quite unique. So, of course, many people would be bothered by the sound of people making horrible noises, which is very bad manners. You know, I think most people would probably feel pretty disgusted and get the ick pretty badly. What I'm talking about here is an extreme emotional reaction, usually rage. It is that bad. You are absolutely just apoplectic with rage. And it is toward what I would just suggest are normal, everyday sounds. Okay, so they're not necessarily loud. So it's not that the person chewing is doing so especially loudly. It's more that they are making a noise. And it could be the particular quality of that noise that just makes you really angry, really rage-filled or disgusted, to the point where you cannot bear to be with them. So misophonia has become a little more talked about in recent times. When I first started when I first began helping people with it, nobody really much had heard of it outside of the therapy world. It piqued my interest because of my own experience and the experience of people who have been to see me, when I noticed that the extent of the suffering was so severe. And I was just curious about why it was happening, because there didn't really seem to be an awful lot, you know, sort of said about it at the time. So is it a brain malfunction? Is it a sensory issue? Is it an anxiety issue? Or does it relate to trauma or unprocessed emotions? Or is it some type of neurodivergence? The truth is, not enough research has been done, as we know. But because I'm trained as a clinical hypnotherapist, and based on my own very small scale research, I've done some studies, some research into this myself. And from what my clients tell me, it's possibly to do with the way our brains assess risk and threat. And it does tend to be subconscious. That is, you're not always aware of why, you know, what's going on, why your brain is doing it. You just feel it. And it often does not make sense. It doesn't make any logical sense to you. Why would you get so angry at the sound of, for example, your mum eating? Some of us may be more susceptible to having misophonia, of course, especially if we have other conditions too, but it is a condition in its own right. We all have a mechanism in our brains, and this mechanism scans the environment for risk or threat. It's called the amygdala. And for whatever reason, if your amygdala is assessing a certain type of noise as being a threat to you, for example, the sound of your mother eating, or your partner snoring, or even your partner breathing, that is when your body, you feel it first in your body, this horrible, overwhelming feeling of rage, panic, disgust. That is your body preparing for fight or flight. And that is the basis of those feelings of rage. Rage is a defense emotion. It's there to help you to be able to protect yourself, okay? Disgust, very similar. Obviously, if you were eating a lot of poisonous, contaminated food in early human societies, that would have killed you. So having that, when you smell something a bit off, you know, you are going to have that disgust so you don't put yourself at risk. It makes you want to run away and hide. Again, it's linked to the primeval defense emotions. Situations where you're going to be exposed to the trigger, you're going to want to avoid those at all costs. Okay, so it's very unclear exactly why this happens. We understand the mechanism pretty much, especially when it relates to the nervous system. But why? Why do some people have it more so than others? And can anything be done about it? That's the million-dollar question. So many people with anxiety or anger management issues, anger problems, can learn ways to desensitize their fight or flight response. I know because I work with it a lot. But misophonia is most certainly not the same thing as anxiety, although it can certainly be aggravated by anxiety. It can be aggravated by tiredness. So many clients say to me, well, I notice when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, it gets worse. And for women, hormones as well. It is not uncommon for the menopause to trigger misophonia and big life events, especially those that you don't have any control over. So there may be a lot going on under the surface, beneath the surface, psychologically. And I sometimes wonder if people with misophonia are holding on to a lot of anger. And is this the actual cause? I've seen it happen. I've seen it myself. What I do know is that it's generally better to accept the condition than fight it, because when you fight it, when you try to run away and cut yourself off from society, from the world, or from your family, this isolation and avoidance is actually ramping up those potent neurotransmitters commonly associated with fight or flight and anxiety. And this can often lead to more psychological problems off the back of misophonia and very possibly aggravate your symptoms. Okay, so it's very paradoxical. And of course, at the time of recording this video, there is no known cure for misophonia. And, you know, the people I see in my practice, they understand that, but they do notice after their work with me that they can move toward feeling that life is worth living, even with misophonia. Okay, so yes, I've seen people whose symptoms have definitely improved, which could be in part due to the reducing this sense of subconscious anxiety, this fight or flight mechanism, as well as making other important changes in their lives. So would you rather be happy in spite of your misophonia and adapt to it rather than fight it, or even change your relationship with it? Or do you want to just spend the rest of your life fighting it, avoiding situations that trigger it? Think of it this way, okay, so if your amygdala, which is your little safety mechanism deep in the brain, is amplifying the trigger noise to warn you of danger, even if it's something completely illogical like the sound of chewing, you will always be triggered, and it will get more compounded the more you obsess over it. And if it's just there in the background, not necessarily gone, but you've trained your mind to focus on other things, will it be so much of a problem? Okay, so I do truly believe, from my own experience and practice, that misophonia is a condition that can be managed. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And yes, it can be profoundly frustrating, especially when it just isn't a logical, you can't logic your way out of it. Okay, so if this has made sense to you, I hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel for more videos like this, and I'll be back with more content tomorrow. Bye for now.